What's up everybody, Mark here from Remarkable Woodworks, and in this week's episode, I'm gonna show you how to get the perfect miter even if you have less than perfect conditions. So if you don't know what a miter is or why we use them for trim, well, it's basically just, it's probably easier if I just show you. So a miter joint is two 45-degree cuts. You put them together, it gives you a 90. You can do the same with two butt joints, assuming these are the same profiles. You butt them up together and it'll give you the same thing. Now the reason why I prefer a miter joint over a butt joint specifically for casing is because if you take these two pieces and you line them up like this, you can see here just how much extra glue surface that we have on the miter joint. So you end up with a cleaner look, but also a much stronger joint. Now, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is figure out what the actual surface of the wall looks like, because you could end up with two different types of scenarios. One could be the drywall sticks out past the jamb, in which case I have a YouTube short video explaining how I deal with those circumstances. I'll link that below. The second one could be that the jamb is sticking out past the drywall, in which case you'd have to roll the miter, which is similar to folding it in.
He folds it in. I understand that, but how do you fold it? Do you fold it in half like a piece of paper and drop it in the pot, or what do you do?
Now, rolling the miter is not complicated at all. You just have to measure how far the jamb is sticking out past the drywall, cut a spacer block, and then put that spacer block against the fence for when you're cutting your miter. Now, this is gonna elevate one side of the trim, so you're gonna be cutting it the exact same way that it's gonna be sitting on the wall. Of course, you're gonna have to do the same thing for the other side so that when your two pieces of trim come together, they will line up perfectly. Now, both these situations are rare, but they do come up, so I thought it was important to mention. However, I did the framing here. I took some time to make sure that we don't run into these situations, so we should be good. Should be good. Please be good. Like I said, in most cases, you should be good to go. So now all you have to do is just start measuring and work on your cut list. Now your offcut doesn't have to be anything fancy. I'm gonna use a piece of cardboard. You could use an offcut or a scrap piece lying around. Doesn't have to be a notebook or anything crazy like that. Just something to hold your measurements on temporarily before you throw it in the garbage. When you're doing your takeoff, never measure the exact opening of the jamb. You want to leave a little bit of a gap. We call that a reveal. Now, some people like to use 1/4 inch. I think it's fine if you're in your own house or you're a DIYer, but I personally prefer to use 3/16. Now, because you're gonna have 3/16 on the right side and 3/16 on the left side, you have to add them together and you get 3/8. I know, metric is stupid, but it's where I live. Anyways, you're gonna have to take that extra 3/8 of an inch or 1/2 inch and add that to the measurement that you got when you were doing your takeoff. Now, an easier way to find a measurement from your jambs is to use gauges. Look like this, and one looks like this. I'll link both of these below. Basically, use these to draw reference lines on the actual jamb itself, and then you just pull your measurement from those lines. Now, cutting the top of the casing can be kind of tricky. Because we took our measurements from the inside, we have to pull from the heel of the miter, which is very difficult to do. What I like to do in this situation is I'll take my piece, I'll put it down, I'll make sure that the tip of the heel cut is in line with the cut guard on the saw. That way I have something that my tape can hook onto so that I can pull, make my measurement, and make my cut. Now, once you have all your pieces cut, it wouldn't hurt to put them into place just to test them out a little bit. This helps to avoid any curse words down the road, especially if you're starting out. Now, if you're happy with how everything looks, you can use CA glue to pre-assemble everything and install them as one piece versus trying to install 3 or 4 separate pieces of casing. And now a lot of people are not big fans of this method, and it's usually those carpenters that have 35 years experience, the ones that are afraid of change, they're the ones that tend to have an opinion about this. Because for me, I've never had an issue with this, and I honestly think that if you get good at this method, it'll save you time, thus make you more money. And that, my friends, is gonna do it for this week's episode. So wait a second. The real secret to a perfect miter is this seam right here, obviously. So don't be afraid to rub your finger over it. Spend some time. If you're not happy with how it feels or how it looks, don't be afraid to take some sandpaper to it. You can always reprime it, and that'll leave you with a much cleaner and smoother finish. The goal is to make this seam disappear once you paint it. Okay, now that's gonna do it for this week's episode. So if you liked the video, please do all the things that you're supposed to do when that happens. Don't forget to pick up a copy of my children's book, Build Like a Princess. I will link it below. You can also pick up a copy on Amazon. Feel free to follow me over on Instagram. I love you all equally, and I'll see you when I see you. And that right there is why I love my tree.